Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, December 6th. We have reached the point of the year where I now know what day it is based on Ember's advent calendar. We're doing a BarkBox advent calendar. And last night I remember opening up the 5. So that means today is the 6th. If you saw my last vlog, I spoke a little soon. Remember when I said, oh, I'm feeling, not bad. I think, I'm not actually getting sick. Yeah, spoke too soon. I don't know if I want to classify this as sick. I am under the weather. I got worse, but I feel like I'm now on the upswing. It started with a sore throat. I got congested. Now the congestion's kind of moving into my chest, but that always happens with me. And I feel like that means I'm making progress. Like it's on its way out. And also, who knows? It could be very weather induced because the past 2 days, it was kind of rainy, drizzly. We actually had indoor recess for the first time this week, which, y'all, it's December. How we made it to December before having indoor recess is crazy to me. And then this morning, it was in the 30s, which I know is not cold for some people, but now that I live here in Austin, when it's in the 30s, it is very cold. Hence, we've got the big fuzzy white jacket that is just gonna live here in my classroom so that when I get cold, I can snuggle up. It's a Friday. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's a pretty normal day. I don't have too many exciting things to share, but I just wanted to bring you along with me for the day and we'll see how it goes. But grab a beverage of choice, some hot chocolate, and let's jump into a Friday teaching 4th grade. Now, because it is a Friday, we are gonna do something called Feedback Friday. I've been doing this for the past couple of weeks and I've really enjoyed it. It's not my original idea. I saw this on Instagram. I wanna say it was Chase Milky who I first saw this from. But essentially on Feedback Friday, you give each student an index card and you have them write one piece of feedback for you as a teacher, something that either you can do better or something maybe you've done recently that was really helpful for them. So the feedback doesn't have to be negative, it can be positive as well. But the first time I did it, I got so much valuable information from my students because there were little things that I didn't realize that they really enjoyed. And when I had multiple students mention like, hey, I miss when we used to do this, it made me realize, oh, I need to incorporate that more. Of course, a lot of them said, let's play more basketball, which I wish we could do more often. But things like Kahoots, they really enjoy Kahoots. A lot of students were like, I miss when you would teach with random accents. So there are times where if we just have to read pages from a textbook and it's kind of, not the most interesting, I would randomly change accents just to keep it fun and engaging. And I thought my students, not that they didn't enjoy it, but I was skeptical. Apparently they enjoyed it a lot more than I thought they did. So we'll see what they say today for Feedback Friday, but I love the simplicity of all you need is an index card, and in theory you could use a sticky note, whatever you have, but you get a lot of great information. Book update. In my last vlog, I said that I was reading Out of My Dreams by Sharon Draper. I finished that, and I finished another book last night, which I feel like I'm on a roll. So I read the book Wish, and I had got this in like a box set from Half Price Books. So I don't think these are all a series. I think they're just other books by the same author, which the author is Barbara O'Connor. So I finished this one and I'm gonna work through some of these other ones. I think I might do How to Steal a Dog next, mostly because I know one of my other students read this as well. And that's one of the ways I've been kind of fitting in reading because y'all know I have a goal to read 52 books in a year and I have to pick up the pace for the last 2 weeks of December to make that goal happen. And that's why I'm reading a lot of like young adult books because it's easier to get through. That might be cheating, but this is my own goal. I make my own rules.
When I am breaking all the rules, I'm breakdancing.
I have been, in the morning, I always stand outside of my door to greet my students as they come in. It's something I've done for years. It's something I will continue to do. As I'm waiting for students during arrival, there are definitely periods of time where no one's really coming down the hallway. So now I stand there with my book. And obviously, if students are coming in, I stop and I talk with them, I interact with them, I hug them, all of those things. But if no one's coming down the hall, rather than sitting there like a lump on a pickle, I'm now reading my book. And I can get through 20 pages in the morning. Not that that's a lot, but it all adds up. And I feel like just having it always in front of me, ready to grab in those small pockets of time is what's helping me get through books. I mean, this book I read in 2 days. It's 225-ish pages. And I feel like if I can keep up that pace, I can still reach my goal. The other reason I've loved doing this, and I'm now sharing these books with my students. So like today, I'm gonna tell them, hey, I finished Wish, here are my thoughts. It's allowing me to have those authentic conversations about books with my students, which I think is really important. No, I don't teach reading, but obviously reading is a skill that spans across not only grade levels, but obviously subject areas and just life. And I want to make sure I cultivate a love of reading in my students, even if I'm not their reading teacher. I think it's valuable for them to see their teachers reading. And obviously it doesn't have to be books that are for their age group. I could be reading anything, but what I love about reading books that my students have either read or that I can recommend to them is it allows us to have that shared experience. And when I told them I was starting Wish, I had a couple of students who were like, oh, I've read it before, what part are you at? And then I now have students every day, they come to me and they're like, how far did you get? What are your thoughts? And I've just loved that. Plus, when I finish, I then add it to my classroom library and my students can then borrow it. I even have a book bin in my library. Hold on, let me show you. So one of my bins is actually Mrs. Emerson's favorites, and it's pretty empty right now because my students are always coming to this bin first to find books to read. So currently we've got Fish in a Tree, One and Only Ivan, and I have multiple copies of that. I know a lot of my students have gotten that book because I've recommended it to them, and it just goes to show you that they really do pay attention to those things. And speaking of the little things and students maybe caring more than we realize or paying attention to things that we may feel are insignificant. Yesterday, when I checked my mailbox, I had this in there, which if you have been following along my vlogs, you know this is the gift that I gave to both of my classes at the beginning of the school year. So it is a custom keychain, and it says, proud member of the 4 Emerson family. And then I had a little tag that said, you are the missing link to our class chain. The fact that I gave these to students early August, and this one is still intact, which a lot of my students have their keychains either on their backpack or their lunch bag or their switch bag that they use to carry their belongings when we switch classes. But the fact that, y'all, there was still one with the tag still attached. It's frayed, very frayed, but I don't know whose it is. I know it's part of my afternoon class because it's purple. I'll ask them today who it belongs to, but it's little things like that where a lot of times when I make a tag for something, I'm like, is this necessary? Like in my last vlog, I made the little tags for the candy canes that say, you bring so much joy to our class. And part of me was like, Michelle, just put the candy canes at their seats. But I made the tag, and since then, I've seen the tags in, their pencil pouches or in their cubbies, and it goes to show you that like those little things, they do mean something to some of them. Not all of them, and that's okay, but I feel like it's worth it because of the ones that really do pay attention to it. It would not be a Friday vlog without having a word wall update for science. This week, we focused on magnetism, so this is what we filled in. I am really enjoying all of these headers and the little example cards. I know I showed these in my last vlog, but I have them all just stored mostly over here, but they're all right here in this little magnetic shelf, I guess, as well as like the cards and pictures and things that I add to it. And it just makes it much easier to kind of guide the information and organize it on the word wall. Something else I did this week is typed up all of the essential questions for the year. So this is our essential question, which guides our learning for the week, and it also guides our CER. So that is what we make our claim based on. It's an answer to that question. Now, I actually showed my students a Brain Pop video yesterday. I will link it for you. It's all about writing a CER. I felt like it was a good refresher for my students. So if you also teach using this format in science, I will link that video because it is very helpful. But I went ahead and typed up the essential questions for the entire year. That way it's done, and each week all I need to do is slide it into the frame. So this is just an acrylic frame. I put magnets on the back so it sticks to the board. So I just typed up the questions in Google Slides, printed them out, laminated them, and I have them stored in our drawers. On my back table, I have these rainbow drawers. The left side is for math and the right side is for science. I doubled up units in order to have enough space, but this is where I keep all of those word wall cards for the unit, and then now I also added in those essential questions so that they're ready to go, which is a really good feeling. And even my students, they immediately notice, like, oh, you posted the question. Again, they pay attention to those little things that we think they're not gonna notice. And one of my students even said, oh, that's great, like you'll have these again for next year. Then we have a math word wall update. Oh, I just realized I need to get Golden Emerson stuff ready. Anyway, back to the word wall. We are taking a math test today, and so I had to erase our math word wall. I will put up a picture of what it looked like because I always make sure to take a picture before I erase it. In fact, my students will not let me erase it without taking a picture. They're like, you have to document all the hard work. But because I had to erase it, it just looked so strange that this area was like blank and there was nothing there. Plus, I know my students, and because they've gotten used to looking up at this board for the past, 2-3 weeks as we work through this unit, even though I've erased it, I know during the test, like there will still be students who look up here just out of habit. And rather than looking at a blank board, I just put some like little kind of encouraging messages up here. So it says, don't stress, just do your best. You are one amazing mathematician. Check your work and take your time. Mrs. Emerson believes in you. And I felt like that was a super simple thing that I could do, but it does have that positive impact on students. Speaking of Golden Emerson, I did end up getting, in addition to my gold sequin jacket, I got a red one because with our house system, my house color is red. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my jacket over here so that I know to put that on. But I also have all of my Golden Emerson materials organized into these bins. So I have the rock candy that I give students, the gold beads, and then also the confetti popper. So I'm gonna grab one of these, grab a rock candy, set of beads, and we will be on our way. So with us taking our assessment today in math, that means we are starting a new math unit next week, and it's actually our fraction unit. We will not finish it before winter break. It will continue into January, but I had to prepare their math workbooks. So they have these thicker ones with like their problem sets, and then they also have thin ones with some of the like fluency activities. So there were 2 books for each student. I got all of their names put on them. And if you remember the last unit, it was our geometry unit, I wrote their name and then I wrote the great geometrist or something like that. It was just like a little affirmation for them that related to that unit. So for this unit, because it is fractions, I couldn't come up with an alliteration, but I just wrote fraction expert next to each of their names. It only took a few extra seconds to write that on each student's book, but again, I feel like it's a little thing that does make a pretty substantial difference because it's something that students noticed last unit when they got their new books. They're like, wait, it says this. And we talked about what is a geometrist. I Googled fractionist. I don't think that's a thing. So that's why I did fraction expert.
2/15.
That fraction doesn't make any sense.
Well,
But speaking of fractions, let me show you on our slides that I create for all of my lessons how I add in fractions, because I have a little hack for it. I know I've shared it before, but in case you're new and you teach fractions, this is the best that I have found to make fractions on slides. So this is an example of one of our fluency slides for the upcoming unit. And rather than creating fractions with individual text boxes, because that's what I used to do, I'd have a text box for the 4, I'd have a line, and then I'd have a text box for the 5. And it becomes very cumbersome to move around and copy and paste from slide to slide. So now I actually insert this as a table. So this is a table with 2 rows. I make the border transparent with the exception of that middle line to separate the numerator and denominator. So I just select that one line, give it the black color, make it the thickness that I want, but it makes it really easy to type fractions by having each numerator and denominator as a row. So this right here is an equation. I have each fraction as well as each symbol, so like the equal sign, the plus sign, is a separate column. So this has one column, this has one column, the 1/5 has a column, plus sign is a column. And for the plus sign and equal sign, I actually merge those two rows, so it becomes just one cell. So I have 2 rows for the 4/5, and then I merge those and put my equal sign, 2 rows for the 1/5, merge the next column to put the plus sign. And that is the easiest way I have found to add fractions on slides. It's still a little cumbersome, okay? It is what it is, but what I like is once I have one of these done, and I usually like to start with the longest one possible. So I try to have ones with like adding multiple fractions. I will copy and paste that onto other slides, and then if I need to get rid of some of them, like for example, if I don't need these last 2, I can just highlight those columns. I will right-click, choose delete column, and it will get rid of those. I'm gonna obviously undo that, but hopefully that is helpful if you also are creating slides with fractions. It is now after school. I'm still warming up from recess. It was so cold, even with my sweatshirt and big fluffy white jacket, I was still freezing, which is funny because I used to make fun of people that thought 55 degrees was cold, but now that I live in Texas, I am that person and I come by it honest. But one of my team teachers had these electric rechargeable hand warmers, and she's like, you need to get some of these. And I said, yes, I do. So added to my Amazon wish list. Hopefully Billy will get them for my stocking for Christmas. But some of my other team teachers just legit bring out blankets, and I might do that and use the rechargeable hand warmers to stay warm in the future. All that to be said, we had a fantastic Friday, and I just had so many moments once again where I was reminded how much I love my students. They make me laugh, they bring me so much joy, and just how proud I am to be their teacher. And it's another one of those like small moments that makes a big difference, was playing games with them. So on Fridays, during our Math Flex time, which is basically a time when students are getting caught up on work, they're doing their personalized practice, I'm differentiating, I'm pulling students who need support, all of that. Because we had our math assessment today, when everyone finished, we had some Math Flex time. And on Fridays, I give my students some additional kind of more fun options. So once they're all caught up on work, they've gotten in their time on iReady, which is their personalized practice, they move to a may-do list, and they can choose between different games that I have available. And one of the options I give them on Fridays is that they can play those math games with me, and my students love playing with me. I love it too, but obviously as a teacher, so often I'm caught up in the things that I need to do, whether it's working with students for support or trying to like straighten up around the room or answer emails. And today I made sure that I was fully present. And I said, you know what, the best thing I can do right now is sit here, and the students who have asked to play games with me, I want to be fully present in that. Now, I was still somewhat distracted because I had half my class back here wanting to play games with me, and I was simultaneously playing like 2 different games of Shut the Box, which was a lot of fun, but also chaotic. If you're not familiar with Shut the Box, I've explained in other videos, you can Google it, but it's basically a game where you just need dice, and I actually have the physical boxes, but you can just play with the whiteboard, and each person has the numbers 1 through 10. You roll the dice and you erase the numbers that will add up to equal the same sum. So if I roll, for example, a 5 and a 4, that equals 9. I can either erase or flip down the 9, or I can flip any numbers that add together to equal 9. So like 7 and 2 or 5 and 4. And your goal is to get rid of all of your numbers first. And I was playing 2 different games of Shut the Box, which again, it was crazy, but it was also fun, and my students loved it. And it's an opportunity for me to interact with them and obviously just have fun, but also to model my mathematical thinking and my strategy. And it just was the best thing for me to do. So I have lots of grading to get caught up on, because in addition to the math assessment today, we also had a graded science assignment. So I need to get that graded and put in the grade book. But overall, I just want to reflect and focus on those good things. And another small thing that makes a big difference from one of my team teachers, she made a Whataburger run, I think during lunchtime or something, I don't know, or maybe it was during like planning. I was in a conference, so I'm not sure, but she brought me a Diet Coke and that was so appreciated. Again, it's a little thing, but it made a big difference in my day. And then one of my other team teachers was cleaning out some of her pens, and she gave me her yellow pens because she knows that I use the yellow ones to mark on like student exit tickets or like worksheets that they're working on. It's like a subtle way to bring their attention to something or make a mark on there without it like showing up super bright with another pen color. The yellow, I feel like you never use yellow pens, so I use it for that. And she gave me her yellow pens, which was very appreciated. And I got a lot of good feedback from my students with my Feedback Friday. Again, it's like those little things that I don't realize that they love. Just some of the like morning meeting games that we've done. We're like, hey, I wish we did this one more often. So overall, great day, minus I fell up the stairs. When I was coming up from lunch, I just had that moment where I was holding my lunchbox in one hand and my water bottle in the other, and I like tripped over my feet, but I couldn't catch myself because I was holding things. And so I like kind of face planted and hurt my leg and banged up my knee. It's fine, but man, just those moments where I'm clumsy, but now that I'm in my 30s, I don't recover from that as well as I used to when I was in my 20s. But all that to be said, I'm gonna end this vlog here. I'm gonna head home, try to get warm, and I will catch up with you next week. Next week is our last full week before winter break because the week after we do not have students on Friday. So we're almost there, y'all. I cannot believe that this school year is already like over halfway done. This will be the end of this first half of the year, and it's just crazy. Time flies when you're having fun. That's what they say. But if you enjoyed this vlog, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.